the problem with Disney's modern heroines. If you're familiar with this channel, then you already know that I sort of have a love-hate relationship with Disney. On one hand, I have an immense amount of respect for what the company has done for the animation industry, and there's no denying that they've made some extraordinary films that generations of children and adults have adored. But on the other hand, in recent years, capitalism seems to be dictating the vast majority of their decisions, as opposed to sheer creativity and passion, resulting in the release of increasingly lackluster projects. At this point, I've made dozens of videos about Disney, from ranking their most iconic characters to debunking popular fan theories. So it really shouldn't be a surprise when I wind up having thoughts on their latest projects, or at least that's what I thought. I recently posted a throwaway tweet in response to the trailer for Disney's upcoming animated movie, Wish, pointing out what I considered to be a recent pattern for the company. And my oh my, people sure got angry about it. Aside from the usual comments that wished physical harm on me, which are always fun to read, the defenders of Disney fell into one of three camps. The first group insisted that there was in fact no recurring personality amongst Disney's recent heroines, and that I was simply making it up. The second questioned why I cared at all, considering Disney movies are for kids, and I was way too old to be talking about it in the first place. The third group just called me a hater, and if lightly criticizing a multi-billion-dollar company that exploits its workers is being a hater, then I'm gonna have to get some new business cards made up. Because so many people seem genuinely baffled by my comments, in today's video, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean when I say Disney has an Adorkable problem, and why I'm personally sick and tired of it. Let's get into it. Disney's entire brand has effectively been built on the backs of their female characters, with 1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs jump-starting their fairy tale empire. And as the years have gone by, they've not only become some of their most popular characters, but their most profitable as well. I don't really want to get into all of the nitty-gritty details here, but if you watch my video about the evolution of the Disney princess formula, I discuss how Disney's female characters were directly influenced by the time period they were created, resulting in occasional overlap in regard to their personalities, motivations, or stories. You can spot this in the films released during the Disney Renaissance, with the female characters all sharing a similar desire for more out of life, which just so happened to mirror third-wave feminist movements of the time period. Ariel wants to learn more about the world. Belle wants more than a provincial existence. Jasmine wants to be more than a princess. Esmeralda wants more respect for herself and her people. See what I mean? Apart from this shared dream, the heroines from this era shared other personality traits like kindness, loyalty, independence, and passion, which made them easily identifiable role models that meshed well with Disney's pre-existing brand identity. However, and here's where modern Disney could learn a thing or two, that's pretty much where the comparisons end, and by no means are the female protagonists from the Disney Renaissance interchangeable with one another. While their positive attributes took notes from Disney's "You Go Girl" formula, it was their negative personality traits that helped make them distinct. Megara is snarky and jaded, Belle is stern and opinionated, Mulan is clumsy and self-conscious, Ariel is naive and mischievous, while Jane is prissy and eccentric. Besides these flaws making the characters relatable to their similarly imperfect audience, it also had the added benefit of making their challenges and eventual growth unique to them. Disney's modern heroines are severely lacking in this department, with the vast majority sharing the same generically adorkable personality. Because a lot of dorks in film and TV have also been nerds, a lot of people mistakenly believe that adorkability has something to do with a character's intelligence, but the two aren't mutually exclusive. Traditionally, a dork simply refers to someone who is socially inept to a degree that it's actually detrimental and annoying. But when someone is adorkable, it means that they're awkward in a way that is considered cute. Get it? There were a few male Disney characters like Hercules and Quasimodo who had these traits, but I'm going to credit Rapunzel from 2010's Tangled as the blueprint for this persisting character type. She's awkward, talkative, clumsy, excitable, sassy, and naive. In other words, she's quirky, but in a way that's adorable, allowing her to remain likable in spite of traits that might otherwise be perceived as negative. I'm by no means saying that these personality traits weren't present in Disney's female characters prior to this point, but it's the exact combination of these attributes that made Rapunzel unique, at least at the time. These personality traits, which might have been depicted as flaws in earlier Disney protagonists, are re-established as strengths for Rapunzel. Where Jane's klutziness nearly got her killed, Rapunzel's helps her knock out Flynn. Where Ariel's naivete made her sign a deal with the Sea Witch, Rapunzel's helps her befriend a group of ruffians. Where Mulan's awkwardness ruined her meeting with the matchmaker, Rapunzel's endears her to Flynn. I don't really think that Disney set out to make Rapunzel the new standard when they created her. In fact, I think she was just supposed to be the polar opposite of the mature, humble, and hardworking Tiana. But in the wake of Tangled's success, Rapunzel's popularity wound up influencing all of the other Disney films that were in development at the time. And as a result, Vanellope von Schweetz from 2012's Wreck-It Ralph and Anna from 2013's Frozen have personalities that are incredibly reminiscent of Rapunzel's. Albeit, in Vanellope's case, it's dialed up to 1,000.
I'm adorable!
Obviously, there were the occasional exceptions, like Anna's sister Elsa, or Merida from 2012's Brave, which is technically a Pixar property, but people kept bringing her up, so whatever. Yes, you're right, she is an Adorkable, and I love her for that. While Rapunzel may have been the blueprint, Anna became the standard, with her character having the same quirky traits, but with an added self-deprecating, fourth-wall-breaking, overly explanatory sense of humor that would become a staple of Disney's Adorkable formula. Following the ridiculous popularity of Frozen, and other quirky female characters like Jessica Day from New Girl, the personality type continued to persist throughout the 2010s. Because if there's one thing Disney loves, it's money, and these girls sold. In 2016, Disney released Zootopia and Moana, with both films featuring the goofy protagonists that were beginning to define the brand. Although Judy and Moana are significantly more grounded and mature when compared to Anna or Rapunzel, in part because they have larger responsibilities, you'll note that they still have the same naive, chatty, and sassy behavior. They also share their predecessors' #relatable humor, with Moana even getting the same klutzy joke as Rapunzel at one point. 5 years later, in 2021, came Encanto and Raya and the Last Dragon, and the Adorkable persona reared its ugly head once again. Mirabelle is the more traditionally awkward one of the two, with director Jared Bush describing her as, quote, imperfect and weird and quirky, so don't even try arguing with me about lumping her in the Adorkable category. As for Raya, similar to Judy and Moana, there's a maturity to her that makes her quirkiness significantly less obvious than the rest, which is also due to her story being darker. Not to mention that in comparison to Sisu's energy, she seems near catatonic in comparison. But trust me, Raya still has her Adorkable moments.
Yeah, I might be a little bit of a dragon nerd.
This is awkward. Not you're awkward, but just because I'm awkward. You're gorgeous. Wait, what?
If I'm being honest, Sisu actually has a lot of the behaviors we've discussed thus far. But unlike Mirabelle, Anna, and Moana, who are at least likable, she's just an annoying dork. I had pretty high hopes for Disney's Wish, but Asha wound up being more of the same, with her sense of humor and even the voice acting being a direct copy of other heroines from the 2010s.
I'm here! Whew, just 1 second. Let me catch my breath.
Oh, I didn't mean, I wasn't, what? They're calling me, so I gotta, bye! Oh, here? Are you sure? Because I don't think I'm supposed to, oh, okay.
Now the movie hasn't come out yet, so maybe I'm wrong and there's more to her than meets the eye, which I would love. But so far, when it comes to her personality, there doesn't seem to be anything about her that's unique. Just to really drive that point home, let's imagine how all of these characters would act in the exact same situation. That's right, we're putting on our fanfiction hats. The prompt is, they've been kidnapped by a stranger and are tied up in the back of a wagon. Esmeralda probably wouldn't react the same way Ariel would she? What about Megara and Jane? Or Tiana and Jasmine? But now think about Anna and Mirabelle. The differences aren't as obvious, huh? Now you could argue that this awkward quirkiness is because Disney wanted to have blatantly imperfect protagonists that their audience could relate to. But their characters have been messing up for literal decades. Or are we forgetting that Mulan's entire thing is that she's not the perfect daughter? They didn't have to make them go, bleh, I'm sorry, I'm so weird, to get that point across. With all of their modern characters having sassy zingers every few minutes, It often winds up feeling like Disney doesn't trust contemporary audiences to just sit and watch a movie without all the bells and whistles anymore. Soon enough, we're going to be at the theater, and Subway Surfer and soap cutting videos will be playing at the bottom of the screen just to keep people from dozing off. Although this personality and humor style were initially intended to be a subversion of the elegant, soft-spoken, and well-mannered heroines of the past, it feels terribly overdone at this point, and I even think that there are times when it's actively detrimental to the story. When it comes to Rapunzel, and even Anna to an extent, their adorkability can be logically explained. After all, they literally spend the majority of their lives secluded from others. But for Moana or Judy, their over-the-top awkwardness and jokester personas don't really make sense for their characters. I also find this sort of "he's right behind me, isn't he?" type of joke, which always seems like it's queued up for a laugh track, are not only painfully on the nose, but can even completely derail an emotional moment. Whatever happened to letting the audience reflect on what's just happened?
Wait, how do I save a miracle?
Take for instance Mulan's battle sequence with the Huns. It was a life or death situation, and Disney treated it as such. The only jokes were on Mushu's end, but considering he's an immortal dragon who is set up to be ill-mannered, it makes sense for him to act this way. Whereas when it comes to Mulan, even though she's been shown to be a bit of an awkward jokester, in this moment she's taking the situation to heart, only cracking a smile after she succeeded at her task, because that's what would be realistic. Meanwhile, when Moana is in a similarly life-threatening situation, she's still cracking unnecessary jokes. Why?
Their boat is turning into more boats!
Not to mention that many of these characters are supposed to exist in different countries, time periods, and even have different ages. Does it really make sense for them all to act the exact same way? I've seen people say, they're teenagers, which obviously. But also, that doesn't mean that every 16-year-old has the same personality. I actually find Disney's refusal to explore any other personalities to be a touch belittling, as if implying that they think everyone under 18 is silly and can't hold a conversation without going, "Wait, what?" I'm not a teenager, so it is a bit unfair of me to criticize the accuracy of these depictions. But I'd like to point out that when Tangled and Frozen were released, those princesses were older than I was, and yet I already found that I'd grown out of the behaviors they were exhibiting. I acknowledge that many of the Disney heroines from the past read as older than their actual ages, at least when it comes to Pocahontas, Esmeralda, Belle, and Tiana, but that doesn't make them any less real. At the end of the day, I think that Disney is trying to please and cater to everyone, choosing to stick to the formula that's been working for them for more than a decade. And as a result, instead of heroines who break the mold, we have the same character, just with a slightly different face. I feel like this lack of creativity and ingenuity points to a greater issue within Disney, hence all the sequels, reboots, and live-action remakes. But as a company that was repeatedly on the verge of bankruptcy in order to bring their creative vision to life, it's hard to believe how much they've sold out. Also, this is kind of unrelated to my main point, but have you noticed that in most Disney movies from the last decade, the female protagonist role in the story is some iteration of, "you have to save the blank." It's in Frozen, Moana, Encanto, Raya and the Last Dragon, and now even Wish. It winds up feeling like an overcorrection for the bad faith criticisms of Disney's earlier films where the female characters allegedly didn't do anything, but instead it kind of comes across as the girl boss performative activism that I'm beginning to associate with Disney. Now I'm sure that people will still wind up commenting, "What are you complaining for? You're not the target audience," which I must firmly disagree with. Disney makes family films, meaning they're for the entire family, not just children. And even if they were just for children, do kids not deserve to watch things that are actually good? Or should they only watch CoComelon until they go off to college? Just because something is animated does not mean it's less deserving of criticism, just as it isn't less deserving of praise. The reason I'm able to sit here and make videos about Disney, regardless of how many times they've disappointed me, is because I still respect the medium. If you don't feel the same, that's fine, but at least have respect for the people who do. What do you think about Disney's Adorkable heroines? I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!